First contact and fatal miscalculation. The massive Galactic Council vessel emerged from the darkness of space without warning. Its hull gleamed under Earth's sun, iridescent patterns shifting across its surface like liquid metal. Orbital defense satellites tracked its approach, but their weapons remained dormant. This was first contact, and humanity had been preparing for this moment for generations. In the United Nations Emergency Council chamber, Secretary General Amara Osei stood with hands clasped behind her back, watching the live feed. The alien ship dwarfed the International Space Station it now hovered near. Humanity had reached for the stars for centuries, but the stars had finally reached back. Incoming transmission, announced General Viktor Karlov, his weathered face illuminated by holographic displays. They're broadcasting on all frequencies. The view screen flickered, revealing a being that resembled a tall, willowy humanoid with translucent blue skin that seemed to pulse with inner light. Its eyes, 4 of them, were arranged in a diamond pattern, each one a swirling nebula of colors. People of Earth, the alien spoke in flawless English, its voice resonating with a melodic quality. I am High Arbiter Xalvex of the Galactic Council. Your species has advanced sufficiently to warrant official recognition. Congratulations on joining the civilized universe. Secretary General Osei stepped forward. On behalf of humanity, we welcome this historic opportunity for friendship and knowledge exchange. We've long wondered if we were alone in the cosmos. The alien's upper eyes narrowed slightly. You were never alone. Merely unimportant. Until now. That first meeting set the tone for all that followed. The Galactic Council, comprised of 17 advanced species across 3 spiral arms of the Milky Way, presented itself not as partners, but as administrators. They didn't ask for Earth's participation. They informed humanity of its new status as a protected developing species, a designation that came with more restrictions than privileges. Captain Maya Chen, commanding officer of the UN diplomatic vessel Horizon, became humanity's unwilling liaison to the Council. A former astrophysicist with a military background, she was selected for her analytical mind and diplomatic temperament. As her shuttle docked with the Council's orbital station, 6 months after first contact, she fought to maintain that diplomacy despite growing frustration. The Council has reviewed your petition for expansion to the Martian moons, said Salvex, not bothering to look up from the holographic display before him. Request denied. Your current developmental stage doesn't warrant further territorial expansion. Maya kept her expression neutral. High Arbiter, we already have established research bases on both Phobos and Deimos. We're merely requesting permission to expand existing operations. Those bases were established before Council oversight began, Salvex replied dismissively. Further expansion requires technological and societal advancement benchmarks that Earth has not reached. And how exactly do we reach those benchmarks if you won't share technology or allow us to develop our own? Maya asked, her patience fraying. Zalvex's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. Such questions demonstrate why you aren't ready. This pattern repeated for nearly a year. Human requests denied, human achievements dismissed, human concerns ignored. The Council shared only the most basic technologies while imposing strict limitations on human space exploration and development. It was Dr. Ilias Kamethi, a xenobiologist assigned to Maya's team, who first discovered the truth. During a supposedly routine visit to the Council's data archives, Ilias managed to access restricted files, a security oversight that would never have happened if the Council truly respected human intelligence. They're not protecting us, Elias told Maya in the secure confines of the Horizon. They're protecting our resources. Earth isn't a developing civilization to them. It's a resource cache they're managing until they need it. Maya stared at the classified reports Elias had retrieved. Detailed surveys of Earth's rare minerals, comprehensive analysis of Earth's biosphere, assessments of human genetic material labeled as harvest potential. But most damning were the historical records showing identical patterns with dozens of other species, contacted, contained, eventually consumed. "We need to get this to Earth immediately," Maya said, quietly. But the Council had been monitoring more closely than they realized. 3 days later, as the Horizon prepared to return to Earth with the stolen data, 4 Council enforcement vessels surrounded them. "Captain Chen." Zalvex's voice came through the comms, all pretense of respect gone. "Your vessel has accessed restricted information. This constitutes a Class 3 violation of Protectorate statutes. Prepare to be boarded and your crew detained for correction." Maya's executive officer, Lieutenant Commander Jackson, looked to her for orders. "Captain, they're powering weapons. Open a channel," Maya said calmly. When Salvex's face appeared, she spoke with forced politeness. "High Arbiter, there's been a misunderstanding. We request clarification before any boarding action." "There is no misunderstanding," Salvex interrupted. "Your species has shown an unfortunate tendency toward rebellious thinking. The Council had hoped you might integrate smoothly, but it seems humans require a firmer approach. We will make an example of your vessel." The first energy pulse hit before Maya could respond, tearing through the Horizon's hull. Emergency bulkheads slammed shut as atmosphere vented into space. Alarms blared as Maya pulled herself to the command console. "All hands, evacuation protocol. Get to the escape pods now." She turned to her communications officer. "Emergency broadcast to Earth. Authentication code, Chen Alpha 7. Attach all the files Elias found along with visual feed of this attack." As the ship shuddered under another blast, Maya knew most of the pods would never make it past the Council vessels. But they only needed one to reach Earth with the truth. "What are our options?" she asked her tactical officer. Lieutenant Santos, blood streaming from a cut on his forehead, looked grim. "Minimal, Captain. Our weapons can't penetrate their shields." Maya nodded. "Then we give the pods cover. Full power to engines. Set collision course with the lead vessel." The Horizon, mortally wounded, accelerated toward Salvex's ship. The Council vessels, surprised by this suicidal tactic, scattered, creating just enough chaos for 3 escape pods to slip away toward Earth. Maya gripped her command chair as the view screen filled with the approaching bulk of the Council ship. "I hope they remember this moment," she said quietly. "The moment they learned humans don't surrender easily." The Council intercepted 2 of the pods. The third, carrying Dr. Elias Kimathi and the precious data, reached Earth. The footage of the unprovoked attack on the Horizon, along with evidence of the Council's true intentions, spread worldwide within hours. In the UN Emergency Council, now expanded to include representatives from every nation, Secretary General Osui faced the grim-faced assembly. "They've declared Captain Chen and her crew enemies of galactic order," she said, her voice tight with controlled fury. "The official statement claims the Horizon threatened Council personnel and had to be neutralized. They expect us to denounce our own people and accept additional oversight." General Karlov stood, his Russian accent thickening with anger. "They killed 327 of our finest to hide their exploitation plan. We should strike back immediately." "With what?" asked Defense Minister Cheng. "Their weapons tore through our most advanced ship like paper. A direct confrontation would be suicide." Dr. Kimathi, still bearing cuts and bruises from his emergency landing, spoke up. "But we have something they don't expect from us. The Council believes we'll either submit or fight conventionally. They don't understand human history." "What are you suggesting?" Osi asked. "We give them exactly what they expect," Kimathi replied. "On the surface, we apologize, accept their terms, play the part of the chastised species learning its place." Meanwhile, the plan took shape over the following days. On the surface, Earth submitted to the Council's demands. Secretary General Osai publicly apologized for the misguided actions of the Horizon's crew. Additional Council observers were welcomed to Earth. Stricter limitations on human technology and space travel were accepted without protest. High Arbiter Zalvex, receiving these concessions, felt a momentary unease at how quickly humans had capitulated. But he dismissed the concern, It was the natural response of an inferior species confronted with overwhelming power. What he couldn't see was what happened beneath the surface. In abandoned mines, underwater facilities, and remote desert complexes, humanity began its real response. Engineers worked to reverse engineer the limited Council technology they had access to. Military strategists studied the Council's predictable tactics. Diplomats made secret contact with other protected species who harbored their own resentments. 6 months after the destruction of the horizon, as the Council grew increasingly comfortable with their control over Earth, the first phase of humanity's response was ready. They didn't have the Council's technology or resources, but they had something the Council had never encountered in their millions of years of dominance. A species that had spent its entire evolutionary history overcoming impossible odds. A species that had developed thousands of ways to fight against superior forces. A species that, when backed into a corner, became more dangerous, not less. The Galactic Council had made a fatal miscalculation. They had pushed humanity too far. And now, humanity was angry. Humanity strikes back. High Arbiter Xalvex stood before the central governing circle of the Galactic Council, his translucent skin pulsing with satisfaction as he delivered his report. The human integration proceeds efficiently, he announced to the assembled representatives of the 17 ruling species. After the regrettable Horizon incident, they have shown appropriate deference. Their industrial output has been redirected to support Council initiatives, and their military capabilities have been successfully constrained. Councillor Zeth, an ancient being resembling a crystalline mantis, leaned forward. You seem unusually confident, High Arbiter. This is the same species whose psychological profile indicated extreme territoriality and resistance to authority. Theoretical profiles pale before practical results. Xalvex replied dismissively. Humans understand power. They've accepted their place. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, in a facility that officially didn't exist, Admiral Roshan Karim reviewed final preparations with Earth's Unified Defense Command. The Indian naval veteran had been chosen to lead what they called Operation Wildfire, humanity's coordinated response to the Council's aggression. Status report, he requested, his calm voice belying the tension in the room. Ghost Fleet is deployed and maintaining silent running, reported General Alvarez of the North American Alliance. All 50 vessels show green across the board. Resistance cells on Council orbital stations are in position, added Colonel Nadia Chen, sister of the fallen Captain Maya Chen. Her eyes burned with cold determination. Phase 1 can commence on your command. Admiral Karim nodded. And our allies? Dr. Elias Kimethi gestured to 3 non-human figures standing at the back of the command center. The Ventari, Koros, and Nylani representatives confirmed their forces are ready. They've suffered under Council protection far longer than we have and are fully committed. The 3 aliens, 1 reptilian, 1 insectoid, and 1 that resembled a sentient plant, each nodded in confirmation. The Council's arrogance had created its own opposition. For millennia, they had subjugated lesser species, never imagining these disparate races might one day unite against them. The Council believes we're predictable, Admiral Karim said, addressing the assembled commanders. That humans will either submit completely or attack directly. Their entire defense strategy is built on that assumption. He smiled thinly. Let's show them how wrong they are. At precisely 300 UTC, Operation Wildfire began, but not with explosions or direct assaults. Instead, it started with silence. Across every Council installation in the Sol system, communication systems suddenly failed, not through destructive means, but through infiltration. For months, human hackers had been studying Council networks, identifying vulnerabilities their arrogant creators never thought needed protection. When the signal came, these systems didn't crash. They lied. Council commanders received all clear reports, while actual sensor data showed human ships approaching. Automated defenses registered no threats, while stealth vessels slipped past their perimeters. Emergency protocols initiated false evacuation orders, sending Council forces away from crucial defensive positions. High Arbiter Xalvex was in his private chambers aboard the Council's orbital command station when the alarms finally broke through the communication blackout. By then, it was already too late. High Arbiter, his adjutant burst in, all four eyes wide with panic. "We're under coordinated attack. Human vessels have breached defenses at 17 locations simultaneously. And they're not alone. Ventari warships have been detected in the Jovian sector." "Impossible," Salvex snarled, rushing to his command interface. "The humans don't have the technology for such an assault, and the Ventari are a beaten species." The display showed chaos erupting across the Sol system. Council ships, expecting a frontal assault, found themselves surrounded by smaller, faster vessels that attacked in unpredictable patterns before disappearing again. Earth's orbital defense platforms, which the Council had forced humans to deactivate, suddenly came online, not firing energy weapons, but launching thousands of tiny, virtually undetectable kinetic projectiles that overwhelmed shield systems designed to stop energy attacks. "The humans," his adjutant stammered, "they're fighting." "Wrong." "What do you mean wrong?" Salvex demanded. "Their tactics don't match any known warfare protocol. They're not targeting our command centers or weapon systems first. They're hitting communication arrays, shield generators, and propulsion systems in seemingly random patterns. It's chaos." Salvex felt something he hadn't experienced in centuries. Fear. The Council's dominance had always been based on predictability. Their superior technology allowed them to determine the optimal response to any attack, the perfect counter to any strategy. But only if that strategy followed rational patterns. Humans, it seemed, had decided rationality was optional. Admiral Karim watched the battle unfold from the command center. "Phase 2, he ordered. "Release the swarm." Across the system, hidden installations activated, releasing millions of drone-sized vessels. Too small to trigger standard detection systems, each carried minimal weaponry, just enough to target the specific vulnerabilities human engineers had identified in Council technology. "They're focusing their forces to counter the Ghost Fleet," reported Colonel Chen. "Swarm infiltration at 82% and climbing." On the main view screen, Council vessels began losing power as the microscopic drones bypassed their hulls, through ventilation systems and maintenance ports, attacking critical systems from within. "The Council has always relied on overwhelming force," Admiral Karim explained to the alien allies observing the battle. "They never developed countermeasures for asymmetric warfare because they've never faced it before. While they prepare for the killing blow, we deliver 1,000 cuts." The Koros representative chittered appreciatively. "Our people spent generations under their dominance because we believed their power was absolute. Had we known such strategies were possible. Humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology," Dr. Kamathi said. "It's our history. We've spent thousands of years fighting each other, constantly developing new ways to overcome superior forces. The Council evolved through cooperation. They literally can't comprehend our approach to conflict." 7 hours into the operation, the Council's command structure was in disarray. With communication networks compromised, each vessel and installation fought in isolation, unable to coordinate the unified response their tactics required. "High Arbiter," the adjutant reported, "the human vessels are converging on our position. Defensive capabilities are at 31% and falling." Salvex stared at the approaching ships, recognition dawning. That's the horizon. "But we destroyed it." "A replica." "Sir," the adjutant corrected, "but the energy signature is identical." The psychological warfare was deliberate. The humans had rebuilt the Horizon as the flagship of their fleet, sending a clear message. "We remember what you did." As the battle for the command station intensified, Salvex ordered his personal escape craft prepared. The Council had protocols for strategic withdrawal, not retreat, never retreat, merely repositioning to achieve eventual victory. He was halfway to the hangar when the corridor before him sealed shut. The station's environmental systems began cycling down, life support systems shifting to emergency mode. The humans weren't trying to destroy the command station. They were taking it intact. High Arbiter Xalvex, a voice came through the station's communication system. This is Admiral Roshan Karim of Earth United Defense. Your station is now under our control. Your forces throughout the system are surrounded or neutralized. I suggest you consider your options carefully. 4 hours later, High Arbiter Xalvex found himself seated across from Admiral Karim in what had been his own command center. The human showed no triumph, no gloating, just calm determination. The terms are simple, Karim stated. The Council will recognize Earth and all former protected developing species as sovereign entities with full rights of self-determination. A new galactic framework will be established where all species participate as equals, not as rulers and subjects. The Council has maintained order for millennia. Xalvex protested. Without our guidance, chaos will reign. Your order was built on subjugation, Karim replied. And it was maintained through fear, not respect. That's why it collapsed so quickly when challenged. Dr. Kamathi joined them, placing a data tablet before Xalvex. We've accessed your historical archives. The Council began as something noble, representatives of advanced civilizations, helping younger species navigate the dangers of the cosmos. Somewhere along the way, you became what you originally sought to prevent. Conquerors. Xalvex stared at the ancient records, many of which had been hidden even from most council members. The founding principles, he whispered, reading the original covenant that had established the Galactic Council millions of years earlier. We don't want to destroy the Council, Admiral Karim said more gently. We want to restore it to what it was meant to be. Humanity doesn't seek dominance. We've seen enough of our own history to know where that leads. But we will not be subjugated. 2 months later, representatives from Earth stood before the reformed Galactic Conclave, the new name for the expanded governing body that now included all sentient species, regardless of technological development. Secretary General Osi addressed the assembly, her voice carrying across the vast chamber. The stars have always called to humanity, she said, not to conquer, but to explore, not to rule, but to understand. We come to this conclave not as conquerors, but as neighbors who refuse to be oppressed. Former High Arbiter Xalvex, now serving as transition coordinator, watched from his reduced station. The humans had been more merciful than his species would have been in victory. They hadn't sought revenge, despite their anger. They had sought change. As the ceremony concluded, he approached Admiral Karim. There's something I still don't understand, Xalvex admitted. You could have destroyed us completely. Your strategy had us defenseless. Why show restraint? Admiral Karim smiled slightly. Because destruction is easy. Building something better is the real challenge. The Council forgot that long ago. And if we had not yielded? Xalvex pressed. The Admiral's expression hardened momentarily. Then you would have learned the full extent of human anger. Be grateful you only saw a fraction of what happens when humanity is pushed too far. As the new Galactic Conclave began its work, species that had been enemies for millennia now worked together, finding common ground where the old Council had sown division. Earth took its place among the stars, not as a conquered world, but as an equal partner. The Council had pushed humanity too far, expecting submission and finding resistance instead. They had awakened not just human anger, but human determination, the unrelenting drive to forge a better future, no matter the odds. And in their miscalculation, they had inadvertently created something they never intended. A galaxy where power came not from dominance, but from cooperation, where strength was measured not by force alone, but by the ability to unite diverse voices toward common goals. It was, perhaps, the most human victory of all.